Hey, what is up, guys? Ivan here from getivan.com. And the question for this video is, how do I create a website? So this is just going to be a free sort of rundown of the process. I have a more detailed um, sort of tutorial on that process and more resources, more instructional information in my paid uh, course on do-it-yourself WordPress web design. So make sure to check out that paid package, and if you can afford it, I recommend it. Um, but if you want to get it done for yourself for free, then I want you to be able to do that. I want to be able to point you in the right direction, and then you can kind of fill in the blanks. Okay. So step number one is to acquire a domain name. You can go to any domain registrar you prefer. There's big players like GoDaddy, Name.com, Namejet, and a dozen other major and more major sites out there that provide domain names. The one that I recommend is Namecheap, and I also recommend Uniregistry. I'll show you that one in a second. Namecheap is a big one. They're cheap, as the name suggests. They're cheaper than a lot of other people, a lot of other registrars out there. So that's why I like to use them, because when you get a lot of domain names, you can save a lot of money over time using Namecheap. I like to do .com, .click, and .us oftentimes, and those are most of my domain names, if I recall. So you just do a search, see what they've got. And also Uniregistry, let's take a look at them. Something you got to keep in mind is registrars also have been known to be the sort of hosts of very unique domain TLDs is what they're called. And so sometimes only certain domain registrars will carry certain kinds of domain TLD. These are TLDs, .tech, .team, .asia, .pro, different kinds of domain suffixes. And so you may find that certain registrars only are the only ones who have certain kinds of TLDs. So that's something to keep in mind. I like Uniregistry because of the interface. When you get into the back end, it's really clean, easy to manage. And they also have a bulk search mechanism here. You can paste a list of domain names in this area, and it'll do a bulk, availability search. So those are the two I recommend, Namecheap and Uniregistry. Now, step number two, subscribe to a hosting plan. So if we go to website hosting companies here in Google, then you will find all kinds of results. We can see that the number one results appear to be lists of recommendations, ironically. And then you got HostGator. That's a really popular, well-known company, Bluehost. And then you got GoDaddy, and so on and so forth. So I do not recommend using some of these more popular ones. GoDaddy especially is terrible, absolutely terrible. Don't recommend Bluehost. Don't recommend HostGator. I know a number of people use HostGator, and it's okay, but the thing is about these two guys here is that they are major resellers, basically. And in the past, using the Bluehost line, I experienced outages pretty regularly. They say they guarantee a 99.99% uptime or something like that. But when you do the math over a year, it means your site is still down for a good number of hours. So you want your site to be up, all the time. And pretty much everybody has that policy, but there are definitely some solutions where you're not really going to see any downtime, So I don't recommend a lot of the major ones like that. It really takes a lot of vetting, and that's one reason to get my paid package, is to get a little bit more insight into the hosting environment, because I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours, researching hosting and going through different providers and asking different people and throughout communities their recommendations and figuring that whole thing out. And it's an absolute mess. And so nowadays I try to lean more towards cloud hosting solutions. You see Microsoft Azure is one of those big cloud hosting solutions, and there's also uh, Google Cloud and Amazon, um, the Amazon Cloud solution. I just blanked on what it's called. So those are more complicated and a lot more expensive if you don't know what you're doing. But those are some of the kinds of things I talk about in my paid package. Just a little bit there. But I recommend actually Hostinger for just sort of, here we're getting started. We want a nice hosting package. It's going to be reliable, easy to use, powerful. And I recommend this bigger package here, Business Shared Hosting. You can get this one too. This one comes with a free SSL. It's just so cheap, super cheap, easy use. And I've been recommending this to clients for a little bit. So let's go to step number 3. You want to point your domain name to your hosting. You need name servers from your hosting to do this. For example, ns1.hostinger.com. So once you've got your domain name and you've got your hosting, then you just need to find your hosting provider's name servers, and it should send it to you in an email when you subscribe, and you can probably go into the back end and find it, or just email support. And then you go over to your domain name provider. If it's Namecheap, for example, log in, go to the settings, and then you'll see an area where you can set your name servers. All you have to do is paste those name servers in there, and basically what you're doing is you're pointing your domain name to your hosting. And the hosting companies also provide free domain names, and you subscribe. So you could use that if you wanted to. I prefer to have my domain names in other places, because hosting companies change. I change hosting companies and, decide to move things. And so I prefer to have my domain names in another place, but you can do that if you want. So point your domain name to your hosting, and at that point, your site is basically hosted on that hosting environment. So step number 4, set up WordPress infrastructure on hosting. One-click install available through some hosts. So a lot of hosts, when you look for a hosting provider, you want to find something that provides cPanel or Plesk or some sort of management. Otherwise, you're going to be using SSH or something more complicated, in general. So when you go to VPS hosting, for example, this is virtual private server, much stronger hosting. You get a lot better specs for a better price. But the thing is that it's more complicated. It's not user friendly. It's not something that the average business owner could hop onto and just start, using it. It basically runs in terminal, command prompt. It's called SSH. So it's not something you likely want to do. But some of the other plans, the more, business hosting, shared hosting type plans, or not business hosting. Let's see, web hosting here. This is new. That I'll explain that in a second. They offer cPanel. You see Powerful Control Panel or Plesk or something like that. It's basically an interface that allows you to get on there and easily add domain names and manage your hosting environment without having to do terminal command prompt type stuff. So you want to make sure you have something like that, and if so, those things pretty much always come with a feature where you can just one click, go to their script installer and one click install WordPress. So it's pretty easy. I know a lot of people don't realize that all you got to do is have a domain name, a hosting environment, and something with control panel on it, and then you can just one click install WordPress, and bam, you have a website. Super cheap. And you've spent a collective, I don't know, if you spend $8 a month on hosting, then you're going to be spending somewhere around $20 up front and then $8 a month after that. So it's cheap to have a website, and this is an unlimited number of websites in this environment, so you could even spend a little bit less if you wanted to. But it's really cheap to have a website. And that domain name is only, 10 or 15 bucks a year if you get the basic domain TLDs. So, I mean, you can have a number of websites for really cheap, you know. So that's step number 4. Step number 5 is to customize the WordPress aesthetics to make it look how you want it to. So this is just really getting into WordPress and learning that interface, making pages, setting up the themes that you want. And that's something that I will give you one quick tip on, and that is, let's say, WordPress child themes. So once you have a theme, you can go over to do a search for that theme to see if you can find child themes for that theme. And so a lot of companies, what they've basically done is they've done a lot of customization, and then they've figured out a way to save it and export it into templates. So you can buy child themes or find free ones at times. You can see here's one child theme, Themify. So Themify appears to be some sort of theme for WordPress. And those are the kinds of designs that you see on some of the nicer sites. So oftentimes, you can find a nice theme and they'll come with some interesting templates. There's an interesting template. And then you can find a child theme with a lot of customizations, and those things allow you to sort of bypass all the time that one might spend tweaking and designing a site. So if you get my paid package, I'll go into more detail on where to get, premium themes. I have a few recommendations. You can do a search too. Obviously, I just found something premium WordPress themes just by doing a quick search. You can kind of see, you're likely to do that on your own and find something that you like. Then just make sure you find a child theme, a nice child theme that you can customize, and just be aware you're going to have to get in there, get hands-on, and figure it out. But that's pretty much it. You get your domain name, you point to you buy your hosting, you point your domain name to your hosting, then you one-click install WordPress, and then finally you customize the actual look of your site. Now, keep in mind, you can do this stuff within 30 minutes and have a site up. You can have a page up, and it will be, basic, but you can have a page that looks nicer than probably 99% of sites out there if you just follow the basic steps. And if you want to make it look a little nicer and go a little deeper, then check out my paid package, and maybe I'll do a case study and set up, do this whole process. We'll see. So check that out. Check out some other tips. See if you find something you like. Appreciate you guys watching. Hope this has been helpful, and I will catch you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.